What goes up must come down. Welcome to the Brand Breakdown. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Courtney.
And this is where we're going to track the rise and fall of big brands, from companies to celebs to pop culture phenoms and everything in between. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brand Breakdown. It's been a minute. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Courtney.
And we have been on a little bit of a hiatus for the last few months. We had some family obligations we had to attend to, but they've been attended to, and we are back. So, yay! So excited to be back. And we're starting with breaking news. So, Courtney, take it away. What's the breaking news?
All right. So, our breaking news is that, sadly, King Harald of Norway has passed away. He was the King of Norway for 35 years, and he was Europe's oldest monarch. So his son, who is now King Hakon, has taken the throne. King Harald had been sick for a little while. He'd kind of been having some health problems the last couple of months. And then earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, he went into the hospital and things started looking very grim yesterday. So sadly, King Harald of Norway has passed, and there is a new king in Norway.
Well, that is sad news. But wasn't he in his 90s?
Yeah, or late 80s. Yes, he was quite old. So it's not that it isn't sad, but he was an old man who had lived a very long life, so that is good. And his son now is the new king, and his son's wife, Queen Mette-Marit, has assumed that position. And she's also been going through some health troubles. She has, I think it's pulmonary fibrosis, and she had a lung transplant earlier in the summer. So she is still in her recovery, and now she's got to step into the role of Queen Consort, which she's been preparing for a number of years, but in the middle of her own health challenges, that's probably very tricky to do.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that. From what I understand, I had a friend whose dad had a lung transplant, and it is a very tricky business and a really difficult recovery. So we wish her the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so, sure. In other breaking news that we have not covered yet, guess who's back in Britain?
Oh, my goodness. They are the gift that keeps on giving.
100%. We would have waited for 6 months. Here we are, and they're back. And I'm so excited.
Yep. Yeah. So Harry and Meghan have not just returned to England, but they have moved back to England. After spending 6 years saying that they couldn't possibly return, it wasn't safe for them, the family was horrible to them, the public in the UK was horrible to them, and every other negative thing you could possibly imagine, they shockingly, it seems like it was spur of the moment almost, but I'm sure it wasn't, because they had enough time to enroll the children in school. But it was announced last week that they would be moving back to the UK, and they arrived yesterday, I guess. So I don't know, they sure do keep us on our toes.
Man, I'm telling you what, though, I am so excited that they're back, because that gives us lots of fodder for our podcast.
Well, what's funny about it is we don't know what it's going to look like, right? We don't know exactly where they're living. It's rumored that they're probably maybe somewhere in the Cotswolds, but we also don't know exactly what they're going to be doing. There's rumors that Meghan will be returning to acting, that she's in discussions for a role in Guy Ritchie's Netflix series, The Gentleman, which I loved season 1 of. Can I just say, I loved it. I haven't watched season 2 yet. I'm saving it. And so she's reportedly in talks to be in season 3, and that she will be, I saw a report that said she's going to be kind of the breadwinner of the family, and she's going to be going between California and the UK, and Harry is going to take on the role of like stay-at-home dad, and he's going to be in the UK with the kids while Meghan is building their fortune on both sides of the Atlantic, which, I mean, good for her. She's a modern working woman, but the whole thing just like blows my mind because I thought we hated the UK. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought we weren't safe here and we could never go there.
Well, so first of all, I read that Meghan got cut from The Gentleman season 3 and is not going to be in it. So I don't know what's actually true. So I'll be interested to see that. I read that in like one of the Hollywood papers or whatever. So I'll be really interested to see if that actually comes to fruition. And then number 2, you and I were discussing it earlier, and you said you believed Harry was just homesick and wanted to be back with his people.
Yeah.
That he doesn't like.
Yeah, that he doesn't like, that he can't trust, that he spent 6 years, wrote a whole book about.
Bashing. Bashing.
But I do think that Harry just, you know, Meghan moved back to California. That's where she grew up. Her mother is there. She's got friends there. She has a whole life in California. And I think Harry kind of maybe felt a little bit like a fish out of water, and like I'm just speculating. There's no insider information here, but I also haven't like read this anywhere. It's just, I kind of get the impression that he never really acclimated to life in the US. Like, he still was trying to do kind of the royal stuff. He was still wearing poppies around Veterans, like, you know, we call it Veterans Day here. It's Remembrance Day in the UK. He was still doing those like quasi royal engagements. Last year or the year before, they like dropped a wreath at a cemetery in California. Like, I think he just kind of didn't know how to be just a normal guy in the US. And he needs to be in the UK with his friends and whatever support system he has left, and kind of tiptoeing back into the charity work, royal engagements world, because that's all he knows. And I think Meghan is more, what's a good word for it? Meghan just has the ability to like be the person who's adapting to different scenarios and going from, you know, the UK to California and back and forth. And Harry just doesn't have that like flexibility in him, I think.
So I read a couple of interesting articles about that intimated that maybe Harry's biggest problem is that Harry was always a royal. That was his job. And that he is unable to not be a royal, unable to not be in that job because he's not really trained to do anything else. He's not really qualified to do anything else except be a royal. Now, I mean, that feels a tiny bit unfair, but if you look at what he's done in the last 6 years, he hasn't worked. He hasn't, you know, done anything to, you know, push forward a working agenda. He's still only been doing charity things. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
he's just, that's all he knows. And he cannot segue his life as a royal and the only thing he knows how to do into being an American, because we don't have that here. You know, like, we don't, even our politicians don't do engagements the way that the royal family supports these, you know, large number of charities that they're cutting ribbons and kissing babies. Like, we don't have that here. So there's no way for Harry to like segue that life into the US.
Right, exactly. And I mean, no fault of his own. The only fault that I would say that remains firmly with the two of them is the way that they repudiated the UK and thought that they would leave themselves an opening to come back, which they really haven't. So I'll be interested to see how they navigate that. And, you know, I mean, he blasted his family not once, not twice, but 3 times and in a book. So I'll just be interested to see what their reception is like. And honestly, like, you know, we have enough contention in this world. I really kind of hope that they just welcome him back with open arms and let bygones be bygones and move on with everybody's lives. Wouldn't that be lovely?
That would be lovely. And I do, I think that the relationship between all of the adults might always be a little bit fraught. I think the king is just prepared to let bygones be bygones. He's happy to welcome Harry and Meghan back into the family, not necessarily the working royal role. I'm sure that's, if that is what Harry wants to do, it would still need to be like worked out. And there are many people who say like it absolutely won't happen, but we know that he was planning on coming back in September for the Well Child Awards. So like if he's still taking on these regular royal engagements, why wouldn't he? But anyway, I think that William and Catherine might continue to hold Harry and for sure Meghan at arm's length a bit, but I do hope that they I hope there's like no grudges held against the kids. Like I hope they don't make the kids pay for the sins of their father, and that Lilibet and Archie are able to have a close relationship with George, Charlotte, and Louis, and the Tyndall kids and everybody else. I'm sure they'll have a good relationship with Beatrice and Eugenie's kids. But I just hope that William and Catherine can be like, okay, for whatever your parents did that sucked, we're not going to keep the children away because I don't know. I grew up with like my cousins and I being really, really close. And I just think cousins are really important. So I hope they get to like get a relationship and grow up together. And that would be nice to see.
I can't imagine Catherine holding a grudge. She doesn't seem the type for children, especially because she loves kids and she cares about kids and she's invested in kids, not only as children growing up just in the world, but also their mental health. So I can't see that she would hold a grudge against the kids. I think she would allow them to engage regardless of how the adults end up treating each other. I think the kids are going to be fine. At least that's my hope. Now, okay, here's a strange, weird, way out there theory. And no one has said this, and this is only in my own head. Okay. No research. I'm just, it's pure speculation from the middle of the night when my dog was sick. And I was just thinking about Harry and Meghan because I knew we were doing this today. Do you think in any way that Harry coming back to the UK, that Meghan being transcontinental is a way for them to easily and slowly separate from each other without having to get like a big divorce, blah, 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 blah. But this is like an easy separation that Harry's going to be living in England and Meghan's going to be living in California. And then eventually they'll just be separated and then divorced.
So I kind of had that thought too, to be honest.
Okay. So see, I'm not crazy.
No, I don't know that it's necessarily. My thought was that it may not be the plan right now, but how long, if it's true that she's going to be going back and forth, how long can a transcontinental relationship honestly last without people starting to think maybe the grass is greener elsewhere or starting to realize maybe they enjoy having their freedom? Now, granted, that's probably very different for people like them than people like us because they can just get a private jet anytime they want. And if they need to have a weekend visit, they can have a weekend visit. Whereas for normal people, it's like, oh, well, that's an extremely expensive plane ticket and work schedules and all of that. So maybe it's not as big of an issue. But I was thinking this, if it's true that they will be a transcontinental couple, this could be the beginning of the end. Whether that is the beginning of the end right now or down the line, it kind of becomes the catalyst for it. But I don't hope for that, obviously. I'm not wishing ill on anybody.
No, absolutely not.
Just the logistics of it all seems tricky.
Well, and I just think the fact that Harry, if they got divorced, would definitely want to be back in England or even separated, even married but separated, because that's where he feels the most comfortable and he would want his kids to be there growing up and doing that. And they're still pretty young, so they'll adjust. Well, I just, it is hard enough to maintain a relationship when you're together in the same place or same house.
Right.
I mean, nearly impossible when you're a continent away. You know what I mean? And they used to be, I don't know about now. I haven't really been watching their behavior, but they used to be super PDA people. You know, they were touching each other all the time and always holding hands and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to do that across continents.
Right.
So I just will be interested to see. I don't want that. I don't think it's really hard to grow up a child of divorce or children of divorce or whatever. It's super hard. It's hard if your parents die. It's hard if your parents are divorced. It always leaves a hole in your life. So I don't wish that for any child or any couple. But it does seem interesting that they are going to try to maintain a lifestyle that is across continents.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe they're not. Like, maybe that's just a random rumor and Meghan is prepared to give the UK fully another shot and live a country life in the Cotswolds and, you know, manage the As Ever brand from there and take acting jobs. Because a lot of movies and TV shows film in the UK. It's not as if you can only be an actress in, I mean, even Suits was filming in Canada. It's not like she was in LA for that. So maybe she's prepared to just give the UK another shot. I mean, I think I have kids who are school aged and are roughly the same age as their kids. And every time my kids come home from school and say they had an active shooter drill, it makes me sick to my stomach, and they don't have to worry about that type of thing in the UK. So that alone would, if they were like, yeah, we just don't want our kids growing up in a place where they have to do shooter drills in school, that would be enough for me. But who knows? And I've kind of always thought that Harry would want his kids to go to a British school and have that same like British public school education that he had. And you and I had actually talked about it. I went back and looked at our transcripts from past episodes, and way, way, way back at the beginning, like 3 years ago when we started doing this, we had a conversation about what is the point of fighting so hard for Lilibet and Archie to have the princess and prince titles if there's no intention for them to ever be back in the UK, because those titles don't matter in the US, right? Like, it's not a big deal. But they fought really hard for them. They've made sure to use them at every turn. And now that their kids are going to be going to a public school in the UK, and by the way, for those of you who are casual followers, a public school in the UK is the same as a private school in the US. I don't know why they do that, but a public school means private school there. So I think that was kind of always an indication that maybe they did always intend on coming back in some capacity, because those titles that they fought so hard for, and that, you know, even Meghan and Harry still using their Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles, like, if you hated it so much and you were never going to come back, why bother fighting for the use of that in a country that doesn't have a peerage?
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. And then the cynical part of me, and there is a small cynical part of my psyche, wonders if Harry is coming back to make amends with his father, because his father is ill and worth $32 billion. And so when he dies, Harry is probably going to inherit at least a fair share of that. Isn't it 32 billion? I think I read 32 billion. Is that right?
I don't know, because the exact amount of when the king became the king and William became the Prince of Wales / Duke of Cornwall, a large amount of that private money switched hands because it actually belongs to the various duchies. But I do think that the king, as the Duke of Lancaster, and the Duchy of Lancaster is what provides the private income for the monarch, I do think he's worth, a few billion. But I don't know how that works with like inheritance, because the money belongs to the duchy, not the actual person, you know? And so much of the royals, like, people are like, oh, they're worth this much money, but they're not, because like they're not liquid. They don't have, like, yes, they might have 100 paintings that are each worth $3 million, but like that's not money in the bank, you know?
Yeah. I think though that Harry stands to inherit quite a bit though. And I'm sure he would want to be on good terms with his dad, you know, in order to make that happen successfully. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be cynical, but money matters to people.
Well, and we do know that one of the biggest catalysts for Megxit, as it was called at the time, was that they wanted to go out and make their own money on their own terms. And that was like the biggest factor in the whole thing. So
which they
could
did
the
really
move
do.
back also be about money and inheritances?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
but I don't know that the king is that, not that the king has cancer. He's still undergoing treatment. We haven't heard anything about him being in remission or anything like that. But they did just announce that he's doing a Commonwealth tour in October. So he's well enough to be traveling.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to die tomorrow. I'm just saying that just in general, it's good to have good relations with your family. You know, if your family is wealthy and, you know, et cetera and so on. I'm just saying based on, you know, people that have money and watching people with money and how they are, and people with money is a motivating factor for a lot of people. So just that cynical little piece of myself. Well, anything else that's going on before we wrap up?
No, I think those are the two biggest things right now.
Well, so we'll be back next week with a full episode, and we're probably going to be breaking down the move back and what the kids are doing, and do a little research and try to see what's, you know, actually happening now that they've hit the soil, I think, where they're living and all that, right?
Yeah, they arrived yesterday. So everything's still kind of shrouded in mystery at the moment, but I assume in the next few days we may get some more clarity. Well, as that mystery unfolds, we will delightedly share it with you, my friends. I hope everyone has a super fantastic weekend, and we will be back next week to give you the deets.